So sasa wacha tu. So first of all, you will see a lot of files. Don't panic. When I start the process, you will see a lot of files, but don't worry. We will only be working on one file. For now, don't imagine hizo zingine utaziona. So if you can try to follow what I'm doing. So the first prerequisite is you need to have Node.js installed. So let me share my screen. So I will assume that most of us do have Node.js installed. So if you want to confirm whether you have Node, go into your terminal, Node-v. I have Node version 18. So that's it. That's all you need. And then, so the way you scaffold a React application, or the way you have the starter files, is there's two ways of doing it. You can use create React app. So let's go to the React documentation. You guys can follow along also. Let's see. I am not really familiar with this docs that much. I'm looking for the get started where we can find installation. So I will try to go pole pole. So I'll not really read through this easy. So nimekuja kwa installation of React. So I've gone to the React page and I've come to the documentation. I've gone to the installation part. So hapo ndio niko. Then how to start a new React project. So you can see they're also telling you need to install Node.js for local development, or you can also choose to use Node.js in production, but you don't have to. You achana nayo for now. Then tukuje hapa. So in your terminal, no, we don't need to create next app. This is for Next.js. This is for Remix. Let's be. Only they do not want us to use React without whatever. Is it here? Let's see. I'm looking for the command to run React without the meta frameworks. Okay, I think I'll just write it. I'm not wrong. Joseph, is it npx? Do you do npx create reactor?
I could use Vite instead of like create reactor.
Yeah, we can use Vite also. But unajua bado they are still telling people to use. I think they're still telling people to use create reactor. But if you guys ever encounter your CRA, just know it's like an older way of doing it. But a lot of applications are still using it. So since Joseph is the guru, wacha tutumie tu Vite. So tuende kwa
But
website ya Vite.
as you can say, like, let me just clarify something. Like, since these new docs were released, since the new docs were released, it's more or less it's like Great Reactor was done. So, like you see, even the team is recommending using Next.js and doing it. Yeah, but I think in this case you can use a Vite.
Yeah. Okay. So for now, don't really think too much about Vite. Just know that Vite will allow us to have the React application. So we go to get started. I think we should have a session on Vite as well at some point. And then now when you go to Vite's website, you can see we have a guide, right? You can scaffold. These are some of the templates that are supported. Vanilla JavaScript, vanilla and TypeScript, Vue, and TypeScript, React and TypeScript, React and TypeScript, lit and TypeScript and Svelte and TypeScript. So what we want to do is we want to scaffold the application, but the template is React. So there's a bunch of ways to do this. So I'll show you how to do it and select the framework bila kutumia template kwanza. So in your terminal, hopefully if you can follow along. You need to come and say npm create Vite at latest. I will not use the template syntax. I want it to give me options. So individually, if I want to use Vue, if I want to use React, if I want to use Svelte, so I will not give it the template, the dash template flag. And then I also want the project to be created in this folder. So unaona kwa hii command, we have the same command npm create Vite at latest. So npm create Vite at latest. But sasa hapa ndo will diverge a bit. I don't want it to create a new folder called my Vue app, because this argument, that is what it does. It will create a new folder called my Vue app and then put the template, the Vue template ndani ya that folder. But I want to scaffold the application kwa hii folder yetu hapa. Hii. So I'll put a dot to tell it create a Vite app, scaffold an application in this folder. Don't create a new folder. And then I will not give it a template because I want you guys to see the options that we have with Vite. So tafinya enter. So you can see it's telling me to select a framework. I can either use vanilla, I can use Vue, React, Lit, Svelte, and these others that you can also select from. Okay. So anybody who is following along, confirm umepata kaka this menu. So I will presume that means nobody's following along. So you can just look at what I'm doing and then we'll go through the code. So we want React. So we select React. Then you can see it's giving us options. Do we want to use React with JavaScript, React with TypeScript, or JavaScript with SWC, which I think is, I can't remember exactly what it is, but apparently it makes bundling a bit faster. So for now, because you don't really know what these two are doing, just select JavaScript. So it's going to scaffold an application.
I'm following along, but now I'm realizing I have to install the Create Vite package.
Really? Oh, yeah. See, nakwambia, you can just say yes.
Yeah, I'm just like letting you know so that if anyone else will probably do it and they're a newbie like me,
yeah,
you'll request them to install it.
Okay. Imemaliza ama bado? Imemaliza kuinstall hiyo package?
Internet yangu iko kwa maandamano, ngojea kidogo.
Yangu inasema current directory is not empty. Remove existing files and continue.
Did you have something in that folder?
No.
Allah, there has to be something, even like hidden files or anything. Because you kata kama ikona like a readme or something, or like a hidden file. Iko na
.dist.
Toa hiyo .dist, hiyo ndio inaleta shida.
So it has to be empty kabisa because it's also telling me the same thing.
Yes, the folder has to be empty.
Okay.
If you don't want to do it that way, then you'd have to tell it to create a new folder. Unaona vile wamefanya hapa? You'd have to say npm create Vite at latest, and then you give it a new folder to create, and then you just press enter. That way, haitakwambia the current folder needs to be empty. You just create it in a new folder, which is now empty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, now I see what you're saying about selecting a framework.
So select React. Select React, alafu the variant is JavaScript, not TypeScript. and not JavaScript plus SWC or TypeScript plus SWC. Select JavaScript. Mali mimi niko saizi. Umefika hapa mali niko?
Let me. It's telling me I need to run npm install and run dev.
Okay,
Oh,
so
nishafinya JavaScript.
Yeah. Okay, sawa. Wekesa, are you also imekubali? Imekupatia hiyo menu?
Iliniletea package name, some 2 arrows React peke yake. Haijaniletea hiyo option ya view vanilla.
Imekupatia option ya like npm install afterwards ama hujaona kitu kama hiyo? Uliandika hii command hivi vile iko npm create vite at latest dot, and then ikakataa kwa sababu the folder was not empty, then you deleted the dist folder, then ukajaribu tena.
Yeah, unaona penye imeandikwa select at variant, kwa hiyo yako select a variant. Yeah, so mimi badala select a variant imeandika package name, the 2 arrows alafu React.
So umeselect React?
Sija select anything.
Inajileta tu.
Inajileta tu React hivyo.
Inajileta tu,
really?
but I think I just pressed enter. I just pressed enter and select a framework, select a and.
Okay, do the same basi Wekesa.
Oh, yeah. So, nimeona list.
So select React.
Oh, yeah, JavaScript.
Select JavaScript. You should see like, should create a public source .gitignore index package.json na vite config file. Kila mtu ako na hizi.
Na install hizi ma npm na taka ni npm install.
Okay, so again, so kila mtu sasa should run npm install. Short form is npm I. Niambie ikimaliza. So ikimaliza, you'll see a node modules package here, and then you'll see message kama hii in the terminal. Found 0 vulnerabilities. 9 packages, added 82 packages. So you should see this message. Kimaliza mtaniambia. Bado? Wekesa, bado jamaliza?
Imemaliza sasa.
Samoina, imemaliza? Na bado?
Bado.
Ngoje. Okay, imaliza ndio tusianze without anyone. But we can be, if you open the source folder hapa as we wait, you can see we have some things here. We have an assets folder. We have a CSS file here. This is just a normal CSS file. Ukifungua utaona tu this is just normal CSS. And then this app.jsx. Na sasa hapa you should see a lot of weird code that you have never seen before. We'll talk about this. And then we have an index.css. Again, just a normal CSS file. Alafu we have a main.jsx. So we'll briefly discuss this, but sana. What we really want to talk about is key app.jsx. So we'll wait until ya Samueni malize. But what you can be doing, Wekesa, unaweza kuja hapa kwa hii folder app.jsx. Confirm uko na hii code. You have code that looks like kitu kama hii. App.jsx.
Yeah, iko.
Let's wait a few more minutes. You can see here we have a package.json file, a log file here as well. Kifungua hapa, you'll see some information here. Some scripts you can run as we wait. Okay, so ikimaliza Samoina, just run, like once it's done installing the packages. So Wakiasa also do the same. Imemaliza ama bado?
Almost done.
Okay, ikimaliza,
It's okay,
kwa terminal
endelea
yako,
tu. I'll
run.
write it somewhere.
You need to run npm run dev. This npm run dev, we are simply telling Node run this script. That's why tunaita dev. These scripts are simply things you can run. So npm run dev, the dev name is coming from this script here. We can also run npm run build. We can also run npm run preview. If I try to run npm run something that is not here as a script, like start, missing script, we don't have a script called start. If I try to run npm run test, we don't have a script called test. But we do have a script called dev. So this is what will start the application for us. So npm run dev. You should see this in your terminal. Then you can just hover over this link, finya control, the control key, and you click. It should open it here in localhost 5173. So Wekesa, run the command npm run dev.
Hi, Ian.
Yeah, it has opened the local.
Yes, Catherine.
I have a question. It's on the agenda a bit late, so I just wanted to know when you're creating when you want to npm create for the template, you add the framework that you want, right? So for this particular one, we are doing React. Okay?
Yes.
Okay.
So you see, ukienda kwa hiyo documentation ya Vite, they'll tell you. So if you want to use a template instead, they'll tell you exactly how to use it. So if you want a view app, you have, and so npm create paka hapa is the same as what we did. And then we diverged hapa. Because we didn't want to create a new folder, we simply put a dot here. And then because we wanted to select the framework ourselves, we don't want it to scaffold a template for us. We did not write this. We did away with it. So if you enter, now it gave us options. But if you gave it the template, it would not ask you to select a framework. So what you would do, come on attack React without having the 4 other options, you just say dash template, then you replace view with React. Yeah, then it will give you a React application. Sawa.
Thank you.
Okay. So Wekesa, do you see this on your screen? Nimekufungulia kitu kama hii.
Yeah.
Okay. So unaona ukiclick hapa, so unaona this number is changing. But we will not cover this today because I don't think we have enough time. Samoina, did you also manage pia kukuletea hii kama bado kama ijamalza ina shida? I'm sure unaandika notes, you can do it after. So, let's continue. So now, easy styles. For example, the background color, the font weights, the font families, they're coming from these CSS files we have here. And I think a convention in React is, for example, this app.css is styling app.jsx. And then this index.css is styling the whole application, hence the name index. So if you come to app.jsx, you'll see app.jsx, this file, right, is importing the app.css hapa. So it's taking these styles and using them in this page, basically, page yetu. If I go into app.css and I remove nikitoa kila kitu hapa, naona something has changed. It's moved all the way to the left and it's in the middle. But the background color bado imebaki. It means it must be getting those styles from somewhere. So tukirudi kwa app.jsx, we don't need this anymore. But again, remember there's two files. Kwa hii file ya app.jsx, we were just importing app.css. But if you go into main.jsx, you will see main.jsx is importing index.css. So easy styles mnaona saa hizi like the background color, they're coming from index.css. So ideally, if I remove this, we'd have no styles. Yeah. But those two CSS files, they're just normal CSS files. So go ahead and do that. See, remove the import from main.jsx and also remove the import from app.jsx so that you have just a white background with no styling. So your code should come all the way to the top left. Continue, because now I want to start deleting some of these things that we do not want here. Okay, let's continue. So nitatoa these 3 lines of code here. Remove these 3 lines of code. Nitatoa hii line number 2 hapa. I'll remove everything in this return except your div moja. So now your app should look something like this. I don't even need this anymore here. So nitatoa pia hii. So delete everything that was in app.jsx, ubaki tu na this function. It's just a normal function, just a normal JavaScript function. Letu inakaa, but it's returning markup. So don't touch anything other than hizo vitu tumetoa. Don't come here and delete anything. Just remove the imports, remove the state, ubaki tu na a function app with a return of, it's returning a div. Anyone who is lost? Anyone who is lost? So now you should have a white blank screen, haina kitu, and Vite should still be running hapa chini. You should have no errors. Okay, sir, are you still with us?
Tuko pamoja.
Kwa sawa sasa pia uko na a white screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's talk about what this is. This looks like a normal function ya kawaida tu ya JavaScript. Right? The syntax looks like normal JavaScript. The only difference is what we are returning hapa ndani. Yeah. This thing here. Right? So React uses something called JSX. That's why you can see kwa the extension name, it's app.jsx, not app.js. So JSX is simply a way to, in very simple terms, obviously this is not like the official definition, but if you want to think about it, ndio uelewe haraka, it's just a JavaScript function, because this is a JavaScript function that returns markup or HTML. That's it. Because if you remove this, back here, that's a normal function, right? That's just a normal function. But the difference is we are returning markup, HTML, not beta HTML. So if this is HTML hapa ndani, right? If you can template your application here, then it means you can write H2 basi hapa ndani. Means you can just write your normal. Let's see. So it's just like a normal, it's a function that returns markup. But there are some key differences in the way you structure your HTML, like HTML yako inakaa. There's some small differences between JSX and normal HTML. Okay, mpaka hapo. Anyone with a question or something to add? Joseph, is there something you want to add that I might have missed? Maybe I have, I don't know.
You've explained quite well, actually. Maybe I can add about JSX. JSX is a templating language, but yeah, it has a lot of similarities to HTML. So it mostly looks like HTML with a few differences.
Yeah.
And then now, okay, yeah, go ahead first.
What other like templating languages do we have?
No, yeah, we'd have now to go to the Node.js realm, like things like, is it EJS? Things like, you know them, when you want to do like a full stack app in Express.
Oh yeah, Mustache, Handlebars.
Yeah, Handlebars, those, I guess you can compare them to those because they're also templating languages and they're also very similar to what JSX looks like if you go and look at them. Yeah, but basically it's just a templating language for HTML. But now the major difference between React and vanilla HTML is now the concept of now declarative programming. Declarative. You know, when you're writing HTML and CSS, it's called imperative because you have to describe everything that needs to be done. Like if you want a button, if you want an event listener, you have to add the event listener on that button. If you want to do anything, you have to like explicitly define it. But for React now, we have a lot of like things that React gives you that makes it easy for you. For example, if you don't necessarily have to do like event listeners, for example, on a button click. We have like APIs for that React gives you, and like that make it very easy to create user interfaces as compared to using vanilla JavaScript and HTML. Yeah, but yeah, you've explained it quite well.
Thanks for that. Anyone who has a question, because up to this point, the only new thing that we are seeing, mpaka saa hizi, is returning HTML or something that looks like HTML. Because saa hizi, you cannot differentiate if we were to take this div and we put it in an index.html file, hakutakuwa na tofauti. There'll be no difference. It will not complain. If I Control C, nikuje niweke kwa hii, haita complain. You will not see any complaining from our HTML. It's going to work. As you can see, it's working. So it means that's valid HTML. So now, as Joseph mentioned, the differences now will start to creep in. So for example, in normal HTML, one of the differences that you might see is in normal HTML, if you want to have a div that want to give it a class, you just normally say class. So then you give it the appropriate class, like hero section. But this is not allowed in JSX because, remember, JSX also knows about JavaScript. And in JavaScript, the class is a keyword. So it's going to conflict with JS because we can write JavaScript hapa ndani ya hii template yetu. So class is a reserved word in JavaScript. So you cannot use class to define when you want to give a class to a div. That's why you use class name instead. So this is one of the differences you will see. Instead of using class, you use class name. That's one of the differences you will see. But now, one of the main benefits of React or frameworks in general is the ability to just have dynamic content in your markup. So for example, let's say I want this to say hello. Here, hello world. And I want it to say hello Ian. We have hard coded this value here, right? But what if we want to turn this into something more dynamic? Now, because this is just a normal function, we can do, even without using state, would say const user name equal to Ian. Then hapa, I simply want to replace my name value here. Let me change it to something demonic badilika. Then now I want to use this username in my template. If you wanted to do this with HTML, with vanilla JavaScript, you'd have to say like document.querySelector, then you have to get the h2, and then you have to get the inner, the text content, and then change the text content from hello Ian to hello Mike. Now, because we are in JSX land, what we can do, if you want to include some dynamic, like some JavaScript in your markup, in your template, then you can remove this, have some double mustache, simply say username. Now we have hello Mike. That's it. That's it. So this is one of the benefits of frameworks. That ability to, your thinking is very tied to your JSX. You can have all your logic in one place. So you don't have to keep jumping from a JS file to the markup. Then you keep changing this and that. You cannot do it all in just one file. You can try another one. Say const color to red, and then you can come here and my color is, and again we want some JavaScript, so of color. Zoom in a bit and see my five color is red. Up and down, you can literally write JavaScript here. So we can even do something like we can use like something like a ternary operator to check, to give different outputs based off of the value of five color. So first of all, before I go on, any question back up? There's something I did not explain properly. Are you starting to see like the power of like React? Is it as scary as imekuwa ikikaa for a long time? Because have you written React before?
No.
What do you think about what we've done? Is it as difficult as you thought?
I think it's actually a simple alternative compared to JavaScript.
Yeah. So now I think, do you sort of see why the frameworks are so popular?
Yeah.
You can see this can reduce your development time by a lot. For developing an application. You've been able to replicate what we have on the screen on your end.
Yeah.
Okay. Sawa. Samoina, si kama bado kuna sisi, did you manage?
I'm following.
Oh, so you're also getting the same thing.
Yeah.
Ujapotea? I thought
Hapana.
nyuma.
Hapana, I'm following.
What do you think about this syntax?
It definitely feels like a great alternative if all you've ever known is vanilla JavaScript. So like my interest is piqued, so I'm kind of looking forward to this experience now.
But you see, whatever we've written is just JavaScript. Like we don't have like Python code here. And it's very basic JavaScript. Just a function, and we declared two variables, and then we returned. The returning thing is now some markup, some HTML. It looks like HTML. Like there's
It's how you can have both of them per user.
you can have the JS and
The markup.
the markup. Okay. So now I think in terms of like basics, before we even get into things like it was a state and setting state, and why we need things like state and state management, the other thing you will hear a lot with developing in React is components. So if you go back to website React, they do talk about components. So here it is. So this definition allows us to create user interfaces from components. So the question is, what is a component? So a component is a piece of the user interface. So for example, e-page React, we can split it into small chunks. Number one, this is a navigation bar, right? We can say this is its own component. Here hapa katikati, we can say this is another component, like the hero section. So we can say yote paka hapa is the hero section. Then this can be a different section. So basically, the way you use semantic tagging in HTML, it's sort of the same thing, but now we call it component-driven development because you now segment all your app into smaller chunks, alafu unazishikanisha pamoja. So for example, let us say now our application, right? This application of ours is looking a bit like haikai vizuri. So we want to have a navigation bar, and then this hello mic needs to be like the hero section. So how would I do that normally with vanilla? What I would simply do is in my div, right, in my main div hapa. Another thing I forgot to mention, with React, you can only have one root component, one root div, basically. So we cannot have like a multitude of divs hapa. It's only one div that is housing all the children. The div tu moja iko hapa, that's housing all the children hapa ndani. You can't have more than one parent. So basically, this will wrap everything ndani yake. So they're like children to it. So we want to put a navigation bar in our application. So sintakuja hapa kwa right here. This songesha hii to the side. hivyo, then kuja hapa, then I will close this for a minute. So now I want to have a nav bar here juu ya hello mic. So normally how do you develop that? Nav tag. We say this is, for example, our logo. Right? We say that is our logo. And then now, if you wanted to style it, right? So how do you go about it? Now, remember we have a CSS file, tulizitoa zile mbili. So we want to style this navigation bar. Now you see why we needed that import here, import app.css, because you can now use that eapp.css to style this navigation. So let's do that. Let's return the import. So I simply have a logo here. Hakuna kitu kingine iko nayo. I'm just saying this is the logo. And then I want to have chini ya the logo, hapa chini, I want to have UL. Then I can have LI. I can have link one. Take this. Let's see. Link 2. We're just trying to create a nav bar here with a logo and some links to the right side of the page. Okay. So we can use our app.css file, which is empty, to style this nav bar. So I can say nav display text, then justify content space. Because remember our nav has the h1 and the ul. So I'm setting this to a display of flex, and then I want them to be spaced out, like one on the left side, one on the right side. So the logo is on the left side and the list, the links are on the right side. So display flex, then justify between. Okay, so that's why my app.css has the nav, right? I'm targeting the nav, then I'm giving it the styles. So now we can come and just import. Where is it? So within this folder, then it's app.css. You can see it's taken that style from our app.css. You simply import the app.css evo 2. Don't even think we need this dot here. I think it should just work. We do need it. So we are simply importing the style sheet into our app.jsx. Lost, do we have the same thing? Did you create the logo? Then you list items. Are you having the same thing? So now you have the nav bar here, then you have this down here. So let's give that nav bar a border, ndio tu tuione vizuri, and maybe a background color. Border 2 pixels, solid black. Imeweka hapo. Let's not put a color right now. Acha tuikae tu hivyo kwanza. Okay, so are you okay pia huko? Do you have the same thing? Logo, then the links.
Yeah. Unazo.
Sawa. Same Samoina as well. Do you have the logo or anybody else? I'm not sure who else is in the call. That's when I shouldn't mention just the two. Logo and then some links here. Or did she leave?
I have that. I have the markup bit hapo kwa logo na nilikuwa na link to. I guess I just got lost somewhere kwa importing.
Oh, so hapa kwa import, just say, so this is outside of our function.
Yeah.
To import, and then you have quotation marks, because we want to import this CSS file. So ./app.css, because we want to use the styles from app.css. Do style so that it styles our UI hivi, because it's targeting the nav. We only have one nav here. So when we import the app.css, which has the styles, itaiweka hivi. If I remove these styles, it will still import the app.css, but there's nothing that it's styling. So unaona, but nikirudisha hizo styles, it applies those styles to the nav bar, to the navigation element.
Kwa import, we have to have the slash. They are not in the same level.
They are. Nimetry kuitoa, it was not working. Because nikifanya hivi.
Okay.
You have to tell it.
Okay. Sawa basi. I think now we are at par.
You have the same thing. Okay. So now we, up to that point, still just accept the import. This syntax kama uje kuiona kwa JavaScript. We are just importing that file into our app, our function app, and then we are using it to target this nav. Now, this, we also need this to be a flex here, this thing here. So we can just target the UL. We don't have another UL. Target the UL. Let's set the display to a flex. Let's set the list. Is it list? Is it text decoration? No, it's list type. List style. The trays or dots. So we are targeting the UL hapa. And then the next thing we need to do is let's give them a gap. Because yachane. And then unaona this is ziko juu kushinda hii logo, so let's do the item center hapa. And items center. Let's see what we have. Okay. So up to that point, you should have something similar kama hii. So we've simply styled the easy upper so that they are across either one by one from left to right. And then now, assuming that's it, let's tuseme sasa application yetu imeisha. Right? We have nothing else we need to work on. But to follow the architecture of component-based driven development, what we can decide to do, we can decide, you know what, instead of having the navigation bar be in the same place as the rest of the content, kama hii, let's remove that piece of the UI and put it separately in its own thing. So now we get into component-based development. So now in our source folder, hopefully nyi wote mko na hii code nakaa hivi sasa. So what we can do now in our source folder, let's create a new folder called components. Components. And then within the components folder, let's create a new file. Components, let's create a new file. Let's call it navbar.jsx. Press enter. So we created a new folder called components in our source folder. Then within the components folder, we created a new file. We called it navbar.jsx. Make sure it starts with a capital letter. And then sasa haina kitu, it's empty. So now what we want to do at a high level, unaona this navigation bar that we have here, navbar, we want to remove it from here and put it in this file instead. Hapa. So looking at our JSX example, hapa kwa app.jsx, for you to create a for you to work with JSX, you first of all need a function, right? So let's do that first. We need a function. Give the function a name. So let's give it a name that is suited to what it's doing. So nav that's just a normal function. And then remember, the only difference is we return markup. So you have to put the parentheses when you have more than one. The parentheses when you're not just returning like just one div or anything, or when you want to span multiple lines. Because if you just do this, too heavy, it should work. How when you ukianza kufika sasa kuspan starts to complain. So now the minute I put the return alafu the div chini yake, it refuses to. This code is no longer visible. So you have that parentheses, then you have your div hapo. That's it. So a function that is returning markup. JSX, a function that is returning markup, a JavaScript function. But now, what markup do you want here? The one for nav. Tunataka hii ya nav hapa. Unaona hii? From here to here. This is what we want. So Control C, don't delete it first of all, just copy it. Go back to navbar.jsx and replace it. And then, I hope tuko pamoja. Kuna mtu amepotea? Anybody is lost?
Si lazima ikuwe na div.
As long as it's wrapped in just one element. So now nav is wrapping the h1 and the ul. As long as the parent is gonna do one parent, you don't have like a nav and then as long as imerapio tuna, everybody is in one parent. The parent doesn't matter kama ni div ama ni p ama ni nini. As long as everything else is ndani yake.
Wow.
Sawa. But uko nayo pia wewe hivi sasa, you have navbar.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what we want to do now is atutaki, we want the navbar to be a separate thing. So now tutoe hii, unaona hii hapa tuitoe. Let's remove this in app.tsx. Let's remove that bit. So code is, our navbar is gone. But now we want to import. We want to import this navbar. Unaona vile tu tuna import the CSS. We want to import this navbar into our app.jsx hapa. So if you just come here and you start typing, so it looks like a normal HTML element. The difference is your components or your elements that React, they start with capital letters to differentiate between HTML elements and the ones that you're the one who has defined your own custom elements. So in this case, our custom element is called navbar. It's already telling me. When you just start typing, so angle bracket, normal HTML. So opening angle bracket and then start typing nav, because that's the name we gave the component, navbar. It should give you, unafaa kuiona hapa, navbar, to tell you where it's coming from. It's a function called navbar. So if we just click on it, and then it's a self-closing one because there's nothing ndani yake. So you just do this and that. What happened? Oh, I did not import it. You're supposed to import it automatically. What happened? So that is the import. Let me try that again. That should have worked. Navbar. Okay, let's just import it directly. Nakata import. So uje tu hapa juu. It doesn't work for you. Say import nav from Now, tuko ndani ya app.jsx. So let's look at our file structure. We are here. So we need to get into these components. Our navbar is here. So dot components navbar row. Why are we getting errors? What am I missing? Oh, did we export it? We did not export it. We did not export it. Sorry, I forgot to export. So there was one more step tulisahau kufanya hapa. You can see from our app.jsx here, after we define the function, hapa chini, we are also exporting it so that we can import it into other places. So we can do the same with the navbar. So naweza kuja hapa chini, export default navbar. Basically the name of the function. And then in our app.jsx, should now be able to import this. Even if I remove this and I come here, why am I getting a blank screen? Here. Now it should auto import. Navbar. Back. So I had forgotten to export. So when you define your component, your function, basically, you have to export it so that it can be used by other parts of your application. So now you can see this is what we've done. The benefit of doing this is now this navbar is reusable. You can use it in a bunch of places. And you don't have to keep rewriting the HTML, the markup. So unaweza chukua tu hii, copy it down a bunch of times. Naona. So this is the reusability of using components. Now, again, you can think about if you had a footer, same thing. You go into components, create a new function. So basically a file called function footer.jsx. Then you define the function. It returns some markup and then you import it into whatever file you want to use it. Does that make sense? Is it? It's like component. That's what you mean by component-based development. You like divide your application into smaller chunks. Did you guys, were you able to do this also?
Yes, just keep that screen there and change it until you get better.
Wow. Okay, sir, are you okay? Sawa, Mali, did it drop off?
Nilitoka kidogo, so but nitapata recording ni follow up.
Upotea wapi?
Nisha create navbar .jsx. So sijui hapo tuna import pia CSS kwa hiyo navbar.
Import CSS pia. Sio kwa navbar, the CSS is imported in the app.jsx. Import hapa kwa app.jsx. Ndio hii hapa. So navbar yetu ni this reusable piece of code. Hii. The thing that you want to keep reusing is that's the component.
Okay. Alafu export, there was someone who can export.
So I'll just make this big and kila mtu aone vizuri. So ndio hii app.jsx, ndio hii navbar. So remember, you define the function. normal function will to function in JavaScript, but it returns something different, the markup. Basically your template. And then once you finish defining the function, you have to export it. And the reason you're exporting it is because that is the only way another component like app.jsx can use it. If you don't export it, then it cannot be used in a different place. So you have to export default navbar. Navbar is coming from the name of the function. So export default navbar. And then huku sasa we import it. So we import navbar from the current folder. We have a folder called components, and then we have a file called navbar, which is this navbar.jsx. And then if you now want to use it, it's just you start with the capital letter, and then it's self-closing. What other element, like the BR element in HTML inakuanga self-closing. You can normally just write BR and then slash without an opening and closing tag. But you can also have opening and closing tags for JSX. But in this case, we don't need it. So you just give it the name of the import, then a slash, and then an angle bracket. It will now bring in the markup from your navbar into your JSX.
Question. Difference ya hiyo app.jsx na main.jsx ni gani exactly?
Yes. So I think can we discuss that tomorrow? Because the difference is, if you look at the file structure, I don't know whether we have time. The file structure here, the only thing that maybe is familiar to you guys is index.html, right? This is the only thing that is ushaiona before. Now, unaona hapa kwa hii HTML file yetu, there is a div that we did not write, ilikuja na React. The div has an ID called root. Kumbuka hii, remember this thing. Now, if you go into, let me do this. I want to put this thing side by side. So now, this is the index.html file, hii hapa, the one that came with React. Alafu, we have an ID of root. If you look at the main.jsx hapa, if you don't look at this section here hapa juu, right, this import app is importing this app.jsx. The same way we are importing navbar into app.jsx is the same way, right? Main.jsx is importing app from app, because app is also exportable. Nona, it's export default app. Then we use it in main.jsx, right? And then hapa chini, this line of code, basically what it is doing, something else that is familiar to you guys is unaona hapa React DOM.create root. So basically what it's saying is we want to create some elements kwa hiyo page yetu using React DOM. And where should we put those nodes, those HTML elements that we create? Put them in, look for something that has an ID with root. Unakumbuka kwa file yetu, we have this. If you change this name, haitaleta kitu. So what is happening is React will go and look at what is in app.tsx, the markup, including the navbar. Ikikuja hapa, it's going to check, okay, where should we put this markup? Inaambiwa hapo, put it in something called an element that has an ID with root, which is here. So kenye itafanya, it's going to put in all this code hapa ndani. Itaweka hapa ndani. That's why Nona render and then React with strict mode and then app. So render app, this markup, iweke hapa ndani. That is what is happening. So that is the difference. This one is actually, that's why they're called single page applications, because everything will be put in one div. Kila kitu itakuja hapa ndani. The whole application itakuja hapa ndani. That's not to say you cannot have some markup here. You can, and I had already done that. If I come and do a P here, the lorem 100. Lorem 100. You will see we will not get any errors because see in normal HTML, it's just normal HTML. The only difference is everything within the React application itawekwa hapa ndani, not outside of the root, the ID, the div with the ID of root. But if I go and check now my UI, utaona sinaona here is our paragraph, but iko chini ya the React. If you want to switch it out, very simple, simply change the order. Weka tu hii juu yake. There you go. So you can have React and also have your normal vanilla. I hope nimekujibu Davis.
Yes.
It makes sense.
It will make full sense with time.
Okay. But at least umeelewa hapo.
Exactly.
Okay. Anybody else? Need to end. It's already 7:13. I hope it's less confusing. We will continue. Utafanya more and more tomorrow. Should solidify some of what we've done.
Yeah, could you scroll up navbar.jsx file?
Hapa.
Yeah, just scroll back up. Okay, because I'm trying to figure out why mine is not showing the UI.
It's not showing up.
Yeah, it's not showing even when I import the...
Angalia syntax yako hapa. Make sure you have the parentheses wrapping the markup.
Okay.
So you have the parentheses and then the nav, h1, ul, then you export default navbar, and then you import it, and then you put it before the hello username and my favorite color. Can we end there and then we resume tomorrow? Tunaweza endelea kesho. What is any questions you guys might have? Oh. Catherine will tackle your shida yako kesho if you still have it kesho.
I figured it out.
Oh, you figured it out?
Yeah.
Okay, so see you guys mnapenda sana React. So any question? Because I hope it may make a bit of sense. And Samoina, I hope it's not as scary.
No. I'm really appreciative of how you've broken it down. I think that creates some eagerness to learn in it. So thanks.
Okay. So can we meet tomorrow? We continue. We do, and then maybe if we have time, we will compare it with Vue. You see the difference. But yeah, you guys enjoy your evening. Na tutaonana kesho majaliwa. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.